Do I need to do this?
This is the...
Yeah. There you go. You gotta figure out the
so
direction.
confused.
Don't worry, I screw it up all the time. And I
Okay,
think
so-
we're live,
it's
so... What's up,
guys?
guys?
I'm Jonathan. This is Lewis.
As
and
usual,
we're Superhero Talk.
superhero chat.
Oh.
I'm new.
Yeah, that's not how I'm supposed to go.
What's up, guys? I'm Jonathan. This is Jonathan and Lewis. And we're Superhero Chat.
That's right.
And he has no idea what's going on.
So,
I
as you
pointed
saw...
at this, Jonathan. Oh.
As you can tell by the title, we brought in our Dragon Ball Z expert, Jonathan.
Because I might know a lot about comics.
And I might know a lot about Star Wars. But
But
we
neither
know
of us
nothing
know a lot about Dragon Ball.
Z.
Or Dragon Ball in general.
So, like...
Because Z is like the third iteration, right?
So, and we may have talked about this a little bit.
Okay.
We're going to have to project so the mic can hear us.
That's right.
But I don't know anything, really. Although I did see that one video of Superman versus Goku, and that's my whole experience from Dragon Ball Z. Anyways, but first, as always, news and notables.
News and notables.
News and notables. Yeah.
That's how you can help us.
News and notables.
That's right. Thanks. Thanks.
Great.
I appreciate the
all the
enthusiasm.
energy
Hey,
he's putting
I
into
had no prep whatsoever. Everything is new to me, so I'm experienced.
Says
in
the
this
guy
with you
we
guys.
invite on our channel who doesn't apparently watch our videos enough to know how we do things here, folks.
That's right. That's how good of a friend he is.
Let's see.
I'm actually replacing the first
We actually-
person, though.
We actually saw this guy at
Transitioning in.
CC's and invited him to join us. So, that may or may not be the best way to strategize your videos.
Yeah.
So,
We're gonna find out.
you notice I'm
All
missing my Superman hat.
So what you got?
Hopefully that
Okay.
doesn't affect.
This'll help. This'll help.
Oh, don't put that on my head. Don't put that on my head.
All right.
Don't put that on my head.
So what you been reading this week, Lewis?
What have I been reading? Superman stuff, really. Read Superman Man of Steel number 50 just this afternoon. It is the beginning of the trial of Superman from the 90s. Some of it drags in that storyline, but this particular issue was great, setting up everything. There's a Alpha Centaurian fights the Parasite, and then Superman goes into space with some aliens who are holding him responsible for the destruction of Krypton. And
I couldn't resist.
yeah. This is what we do. So
Yeah.
for him, he's new, so we're
I don't
just
think there's actually a show. I think they're just trying to find a way to harass me on video. The show doesn't even exist.
no, it totally exists. We have 60, 64,
I can either-
65
65.
subscribers.
That's right.
That's right.
Okay.
That's you guys.
The fam.
I can either confirm your claim or deny it.
Anyways, yeah, so it was an excellent issue. It brought me back to when I first read it, 20 plus years ago.
When you first read it?
Read it.
Oh, read it.
Read
No,
it.
I don't do anything
Okay.
with Reddit other than
You
look
read
for
it.
images that I can't find in the normal, interwebs.
Okay.
So
They have large forums. I've been finding them
I
useful
know I
lately.
don't do anything with them.
I took a
So
Should try it out.
for me.
I really don't
I
want
took
to.
a issues of the.
I've heard they're
Terrifics
scary. So
to read, but it never happened.
is it the one with Bizarro on the front?
No,
Oh, okay,
that's a few issues later.
okay. Because I love that cover. He says don't buy.
I know.
That's perfect Bizarro.
I told Brandon when I got it, I was like, anybody who doesn't know Bizarro is gonna not understand this at all.
Which is a shame. People should know who
Right.
Bizarro is, and not that monstrosity from Batman vs Superman.
Do you know who Bizarro is? Other Jonathan?
He's like the
Version
opposite of
2.
Superman. I think I used to know
Okay.
from the Superman cartoon.
So when
yeah.
he says don't buy this, what
He
is
means-
he saying?
What?
Yeah, so
On the cover of a
the
comic,
comic
he
it
says don't buy this.
What's he
So
saying?
what is Bizarro saying?
Yeah, I don't know.
He's instructing you to buy the comic in
Because
Bizarro's speak.
in Bizarro's speech, everything
Me
they say
and
is-
Superman.
Is everything the opposite in the way that he talks?
Yes.
So it's opposite day every day for
Me
him.
hate
Right.
Superman means he loves Superman.
Right.
But he's also the opposite of Superman.
That's pretty crazy.
That's
Right. He
That's
says
the main thing.
me and Bizarro.
Okay.
Or me and
Hmm.
not Bizarro.
No, he says me and Bizarro.
Anyways.
He's inconsistent
So,
with it.
I didn't get to read it because I've been writing its NaNoWriMo, so
I forgot that. Thank you for the
working
reminder.
on my and Lewis's novel series, which I do all the writing for, but Lewis helps with the ideas. So
I do the heavy lifting.
I'm near the end of book 3. Pretty excited. We haven't published anything yet, but we will before long. So look out for that in the future.
There's a
years.
reason we haven't got to publishing
But
form.
it's all about superheroes and fun stuff like that. This one's more of a detective story.
It's that guy who's fleeing from the horns of the reindeer that is the reason we haven't quite gotten to the point where we can publish things.
This week, I guess in other news, Pokemon Sword and Shield comes out. So I don't know if I'll be able to
We
get
have new cards. You should come.
I don't know if I'll be able to get it this week, but in future weeks. Pretty excited about that. Let us know which one you're going to get, Sword or Shield. I'm probably getting Sword.
You know, my
both.
favorite superhero chat channel on YouTube, I think it's called Superhero Chat.
Yeah.
They just put up this awesome video about silly Halloween costumes they put
What?
together at the Dollar Tree for $10 or less.
Yeah. Me and
So-
Lois were watching it and just dying laughing.
It's hilarious. You guys go and watch that video after we're done here and tell
Literally-
us what you think.
Literally took me hours to get the stupid thing to work because of dumb computer things. Apple fun stuff.
If you guys have anything,
You understood that.
I see you guys are watching, so if you have anything you want to ask Jonathan version 2, feel free to throw it up in the chat comments over there.
He is an expert
And,
in all things Dragon Ball Z. There's nothing he does not know.
So we're going to get there eventually. Is there anything else?
I think we need to clarify that I am known as JS 2.0,
There you go.
Don't no last names.
and this is
JS number
JS
1.
number 1.
Yes.
So
That's enough to know.
Yes.
there you go.
This is the original, and this is the
Newer
version.
Upgraded We found a way to say it in a good light for both
I'm
of
number
us.
1.
Yeah.
He's the newer, better version. There you
Yeah,
go.
this is classic JS. You know,
Like the NES. the
Classic
Super
Jonathan.
NES,
Right,
Super
right.
NES.
and I am the Atari. Because how else? What?
From the Lord of the Rings.
He was before us. And he's just a different beast.
I think there's an
already.
Did you just insult me?
I think there's an
Is that-
Atari from the Lord of the Rings.
Anyways.
Like
Anyways.
that's spelled.
You got any other news this week?
See, he threw me off.
Any other news?
Go buy comics. New Comic Day is Wednesday. Superhero, what is it? Play for Life Comics. Brandon, go tell him we sent you. I'll give you 20% off any new comic you buy on Wednesday.
I heard, I don't know how true this is, that there was a trailer for like a young Scooby-Doo.
Yes, it's called Scoob. I saw the headline. I hadn't watched it yet. So we might have to do a reaction video to that at some point.
So that's Warner Brothers, so that's pretty cool.
I'll sing the theme song for you. Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? Got to get some. Yeah, so work to do now.
Come on, Scooby-Doo.
Where are you?
This is decades in my past. I can't remember this stuff.
Excuse me?
All right.
I can't remember these songs.
Well,
Rusty.
so there's
What kind
that.
of nerd are you?
Still not sure what they're doing
Small.
with Star Wars. There's a lot of stuff going around that I just don't care to talk about.
Hey, I saw that they're going to go on hiatus after, what is this, Rise of the Skywalker? I don't know what the
Yeah.
name of this movie is.
They're doing a Kenobi series, which should be good on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to get that for that. The Mandalorian looks awesome.
Yeah, I heard. I forget what I read about that today, but yeah.
Disney doesn't really know what they're doing with Star Wars, but I'll talk about that in another video sometime. I say that, and then it never happens.
We do
Anyways.
have Yoda videos coming. The editing is taking a while, but otherwise, look forward
That's
to
right.
those.
So
Without further ado,
the
We're gonna-
topic at hand.
Jonathan and I are
Alright.
just going to get up and leave, and Jonathan's going to tell you guys about Dragon Ball
Good
Z.
luck.
Because we're really not interested in Dragon Ball Z.
Well,
That makes
I'm
no
kidding.
we just don't know anything about it. All right. So my first question is, what is a Dragon Ball? And
Dragon
what is
Ball.
a Dragon Ball Z?
Good questions. Good questions. So a
No,
Dragon Ball.
The Dragon Ball Z one is not a good question.
What do you mean?
What is a Dragon Ball Z? That's
Is there
the
a
name.
Dragon Ball X and A, B, C, D, E, F,
No,
G?
Dragon Ball Z is just the.
There's kind of a lot.
You're
of
not the
them,
expert. I can't believe you.
This is
That's
true.
right, that's
This
right.
is true.
though.
I've at least watched the show.
Well, all right. I'll give you a definition of Dragon Ball. There are 7 mythical balls that are scattered across the earth. We'll just have to get past the odd naming.
Like marbles.
They're spherical. All right.
How big
They're
are
spherical.
Size of your head.
They actually can vary throughout the run of the show, but when they start out, you can get them with one hand.
they?
I remember there are stars on them. Are they numbered?
They are numbered.
The
There's
stars
7.
number them.
There's The
Okay.
7th one will have 7 stars, and
Thank
when
you.
you collect them together, a dragon will emerge from the Dragon Balls and grant you one wish. And so the show kind of begins on this quest.
Don't talk to us. Talk to them.
The show kind of begins on this quest for the mythical Dragon Balls.
Because we can see you there.
Okay. It's a little bit awkward just looking forward, but I can do that.
That's okay. That's what we do every week, though.
Yeah,
Now, as for Dragon Ball Z,
and we're pretty awkward too. So.
I don't believe Japan has the name Dragon Ball Z, but in America at least, once the show progressed to a certain point, they stopped calling it Dragon Ball, which was the original name, and they termed it Dragon Ball Z. And after Dragon Ball Z had finished its run,
What's the Z for?
Just to differentiate it.
I think it's just a
Excellent.
cool letter, something like that. But then there's
This is
GT.
amazing.
There's GT.
GT that follows Dragon Ball Z.
What's that stand for?
Grand Tour.
Oh, okay.
Because
Yeah.
I think it starts
I'll
with a
take that.
tournament.
No
right?
one's really a huge fan of it. There's not a tournament. It's the main character is an adult, but he becomes a kid again via the Dragon Ball. So an enemy
Why?
of his wishes him to become a kid.
Okay.
They're trying to
'Cause
return
I was
to the
going to say,
magic.
wasn't he married? So why would they?
He is, yeah. They're trying to return to the magic of the original Dragon Ball, where he was a kid when the series started. It didn't really work that well. No one's a huge fan of the series. It's okay. And now, recently, there's this new era called Dragon Ball Super, and it's kind of acted like Dragon Ball GT never existed. And
Interesting.
yeah, inserted itself before the time gap that comes at the very end of Dragon Ball Z. And so that's kind of the place where it occurs, and it's been coming out for a while now. Now there's a manga, the chapters are still coming out, but the anime hasn't come out for a while. I'm not a huge fan of it. A lot of people like it. I still watch it because I can't help it. Dragon Ball Super.
Oh, okay.
I've still watched it just because I can't help it because I like Dragon Ball so much. But I'm not a huge
Kind
fan.
of like us, Jonathan watching Star Wars.
Yeah,
Probably.
I think so from our talks.
He'd rather not watch it, but it's Star Wars and it's
Well, I
all he's
haven't
got.
watched.
You watched Last Jedi,
I haven't watched Last Jedi since the theater.
but you saw it.
Saw it once.
I didn't see it at all. So maybe I'm a bigger Star Wars fan than you are.
Yeah, no. You're just not a Star Wars fan, which is why you didn't watch it.
I like it okay.
Exactly. You're the one that says Star Trek is better.
That's right.
I enjoyed Star Wars.
And he's wrong.
Hashtag facts. Hashtag facts.
Yeah, Star Wars is better. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I said Star Trek's better.
No,
Oh,
no,
wow.
and I corrected you because you were wrong.
I'm not wrong. Your opinion is wrong.
He's just
This conversation's out of order.
Just
We're
ignorant.
talking about Dragon
talking
Ball.
about Dragon Ball Z, so stop.
No, we're
you know,
talking about
spewing
Dragon
false
Ball.
truths.
Dragon Ball.
False news.
Which-
Fake news.
Huge, huge.
Star Wars is better. All right, go ahead.
All right, where was I? Was there? I think I finished
don't know.
describing the
Super-
different terms.
Okay.
So you did. Hold on. You described it as manga.
Yeah, manga.
I've already heard it as manga. Is it okay to say it
Yeah,
both
you know,
ways?
I'm not sure.
Because
I've
you're a
heard
manga
people call
expert,
it
too.
manga, and I'm not
Everybody
actually,
I've heard refer to it as manga.
Well, that's very strange.
I've heard like
So I mean, folks who are
Now,
in the know
I think
could
most people-
pronounce
Now,
it
I'm
correctly.
personally not an expert. I've read Dragon Ball, portions of Naruto, and that's pretty much it.
I think people
I've stuck with those.
people that
Okay.
I've heard that don't read it call it manga, and then people who do read it and want the sound correct say manga.
Okay.
Those are the ones that always correct you. No, it's manga. I'm like,
Okay.
okay, I believe you.
That makes sense. I can
That's,
buy
that's
that.
how I hear it.
All right. So you've heard it both ways,
Well, so the
Thanks,
manga.
and the correct way to say it is my way, since I don't read that
Hey,
stuff.
I got the Star Wars. You can have the manga.
Manga.
Probably
I'll give
probably
you
doesn't
that.
make a huge
Manga.
difference.
You were saying manga.
I say manga.
Okay, you can have.
He
that.
says manga,
Do you?
and he says apparently the people.
We're
who
solving
watch-
real world issues here,
That's
people.
right. First world problems.
That's right. This is why you subscribe.
That's right.
I almost want to say I started out calling it manga because that's how I would pronounce it when as an American, when I see the word. It's just kind of the first thing that comes to mind. But I feel like I heard
Are you
that it was different at some
Are
point.
you accusing me of being an American? Oh, real quick,
that's
Veterans
what we're-
Day. So, thanks for veterans.
That should have been in News and Notables.
It should have been.
And the
But
way I'm sitting, it looks like I have Yoda ears.
I like it though. It looks good. It's an
It'd be
excellent
like
fashion
a
statement.
We
a
planned that out ahead
Yodica,
of time.
like a
What'd you say?
Yamaka with Yoda
We planned that
ears.
ahead of time.
Yeah.
It's like
I would allow that.
a
a
Yamaka
Yamaka
with
with
Yoda
ear-
ears.
yeah.
We'll call it a Yodica.
Okay, fair enough. I think Yoda would be proud. I think Jewish people would be offended.
I have. Sorry, not me,
Unless
but
they're
them.
big Star Wars fans.
Yeah, maybe.
So,
I don't know what like they're allowed to wear, so we're not trying to make fun.
I think they're cool,
Yeah,
actually.
I think so.
So
I don't think I'd wear one, but I think they're cool looking. Anyways, sorry. Dragon Ball Z. So not every Dragon Ball has a dragon in it. You just have to have all 7.
do they open?
That's right. I don't think the dragons dwell within the Dragon Ball.
So there's
Somehow
more
the
than
Dragon
one
the Dragon
dragon.
Balls summon the dragon from some
So
other
the ball
realm.
is solid then?
It's solid.
Could
It's
you
solid.
hit somebody with it?
You can hit somebody with it.
Okay.
Can you
Yeah.
do anything with one Dragon Ball? Does it give you more power,
Can you bowl?
or is
No.
it worthless unless you get all 7?
Yeah, I mean, you could probably bowl with it, but
Okay.
yes, for the purposes of the Dragon Ball, you can't do anything with it until you've got all 7.
And how do you get all 7?
Well, you've got to collect them,
Where
which is
from?
very difficult because you don't know where they're at. But
Are they in
thankfully,
dangerous locations like Walmart after dark?
they can be anywhere, so that's a possibility.
Then yes.
So are there just people running around with Dragon Balls trying to find all 7?
That's often what they're trying to do in the show. I feel like we're kind of going in the wrong direction. The Dragon Balls are a thing in the show because they can grant any wish, and therefore they provide a lot of appeal to villains who want to do things like world domination and what you could expect the kinds of things people would wish for. Whereas Goku, the main character of this show, he wants to get them to wish people back to life and to do good things with them. And so he's often trying to get the Dragon Balls for himself, and he'll run into these other people trying to get them. Or sometimes he's trying to stop villains from getting the Dragon Balls. And actually, the Dragon Balls are a thing in the show, but probably the main focus is Goku and his friends. And it starts out as just kind of these fun adventures that steadily progresses towards threats to various people, rising to threats to the world. And Goku is this powerful kid when the series starts out. He knows
With a monkey
martial
tail,
arts
right?
with a monkey tail, so it's based off of the Monkey King tradition, Eastern
Oh.
tradition.
Interesting.
So are you
I
guys
don't
familiar
know.
with that?
Yeah, I didn't realize that
I saw
was
that
what it
Jackie
was.
Chan movie once.
Yeah, that's the tradition that it's based off of.
Forbidden Kingdom, is that what it's called?
Forbidden Kingdom. Yeah, that's right. With
That's an excellent
Jackie
movie.
Chan,
And
Jet
Jet
Li.
Li.
Movie.
Mm-hmm.
Go watch that.
Yeah.
That's a recommendation from us.
Well, so that's kind of the theme that it has. He's this monkey boy, and he's traveling around, but he's trained in martial arts, and so he's very powerful for a child. I think the first episode starts with him getting shot in the forehead by this girl Bulma that he meets, and he just bounces up and he's angry at her because she hurt him. So he's obviously really strong.
And that's who he grows up and marries, right?
No. He they're good
Is
friends,
that Vegeta's
acquaintances.
wife?
That's Vegeta's wife.
Okay. Makes sense she'd marry Vegeta
Yeah.
after shooting Goku in the head.
But as the show progresses, it kind of becomes more and more about fighting and the otherworldly powers and abilities of the characters on the show. And so Dragon Ball is a lot more about adventure and quests, and the good guys and bad guys aren't nearly as powerful, so it's easier to have a stronger story. But as it progresses, they keep getting stronger and stronger, and it also increases in the quality of the fights. I mean, they just get really cool. Mountains are being blown up left and right once you get into Dragon Ball Z, and even further. So it's really kind of a fairly different show with a lot of different emphases. If that's the way to say it. On
We don't care.
the adventure aspects compared with just the fighting aspects, and by the end, it's almost all fighting. It feels like, but
Does Goku grow up in the Dragon Ball series?
he does get older, but then there's a time gap before the last kind of saga in Dragon Ball where he goes from being maybe 13 to maybe 16,
Okay.
and then it ends after he wins the world tournament against the
Spoiler
Sky Wars to
alert.
destroy the
So,
world. Yeah. How do I do this without spoiler alerts?
What powers does?
You always just say it after you say something important. That way, they recognize how important it is.
Okay.
Don't worry about it. It's old. Nobody.
No. We have to maintain
classic.
spoilers.
um,
That's why we
So-
tell you after the fact.
what are Goku's powers and how do they work?
Yes.
Where do they come from?
So let me just real quick. Is he just using martial arts and channeling his chi?
So chi is a thing. So the martial arts, that's something that we have in real life. He's almost like an Olympic athlete on super steroids or something, even as a kid.
Kinda like
And
that.
so are the other characters. I mean, there are human characters in this show. We would later find out that Goku's an alien. It seems like the creator kind of borrowed that idea from Superman. You find out that he's come from space, and that's why he's so strong.
I thought it was because he was a monkey boy.
Also, why he has a tail. But
Yeah.
yeah, people just kind of accepted that without thinking he was an alien at first.
I don't know how you would do that.
Yeah, they just go with it. They're always surprised.
Hey, you got a monkey tail. Okay.
Yeah. Well, okay, so
They're
he
normal.
knows martial arts. He's been through a lot of training, but
You look like a normal child except for this monkey tail hanging out in your, in the back of your pants.
it's kind of
So does he come from a planet of monkeys?
yes. All of the
Monkey
Saiyans,
people.
this race that he is from, all of them have tails.
Is that related to Super Saiyan?
It's related to Super
That's
Saiyan.
a form, I think.
Well, Saiyans become Super Saiyans. But the tail thing is a big deal because not only do they have tails, but these tails give them the ability
To turn into
giant monkeys and increase their strength by 10 times. And this will only happen, though, when they take in the light from a full moon.
Now, you say it increases their strength tenfold. Physically, or their ability to channel energy as well?
I would say
'Cause,
I mean,
like, if
they can
he's-
still
he-
channel the... I mean,
If he still had the tail, like later in the series, would he then be able to achieve a form that they never showed? Like Super Saiyan monkey form or something? I don't know what you would call it, folks. I'm not trying to be offensive.
well, in
at
Dragon
this
Ball...
point, anyway. I'll save that for later.
they do have a time in Dragon Ball GT where he does get his tail back, and in that series it does allow him to have this incredible power because he's become a Super Saiyan 3, and the tail coming back and him viewing the moon gives him this Super Saiyan 4 ability. A lot of people don't consider GT canon though because the
Well,
actual...
that's what you just said a moment
Yeah.
ago, so I was about to
How does he
question
lose his
that.
tail?
Well, you can lose it a lot of ways. People pull it off, typically. He pulls it off. Because, actually, the tail is actually a weakness for most Saiyans, because if it's grabbed, they instantly lose all control of themselves, and they just become very weak unless they've trained themselves to resist that kind of thing. And
It's
so
like
he
the
actually
old-
tears it off to remove a weakness.
It's like the old Wonder Woman, wherever she got bound up by chains, she lost all her powers or something.
Yeah, it's kind of a...
So he lost it. He
weakness.
pulls his own tail off.
Yeah,
to remove
he
the
has it
weakness.
permanently removed, and he personally doesn't even know that he turns into this giant ape in Dragon Ball, because every time it happens, it's like becoming a werewolf. He just
Oh, blacks
loses
out.
control of himself, and he's actually a huge danger to everyone around him, his friends, enemies. So he doesn't see it as a strength. He just knows that it makes him weak when people grab it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's got a lot of strange premises now that you're making me describe it as if you've never heard of it before. Which you
Oh, well,
haven't.
I only saw a few episodes of Dragon Ball, and then eventually I caught Dragon Ball Z, and I was completely lost.
Yeah, I first became exposed to it with Dragon Ball Z, which I don't think they had aired Dragon Ball in America. They started with Dragon Ball Z when he's an adult, and his brother comes from space, and he learns that he's an alien, and that's why he's so strong. His brother is way stronger than him, and he wants to destroy Earth's population so that they can sell the planet to I don't know, space bidders or something like that.
Okay.
And
Seems legit.
yeah. So that really sets everything in motion, and it becomes not just this quest and adventure against bad guys on Earth, but it becomes this galactic show with alien enemies that they wind up having to fight. But I kind of
Like
lost track.
Cell, or...
Oh man, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Cell
I'm
is
sorry, I didn't know you had
Cell is a
plan.
combination of many people's DNA, including Goku's. A scientist makes the Cell character.
Oh, interesting.
And so he's made of aliens as well, like this Frieza guy later on. But
Yeah. Freezer, I remember.
Yeah.
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 Hmm.
Ask me a question to kind of direct me. So broad of a topic. What
Sorry.
else should I talk about? Now, you asked a question about the ki and the physical strength. I'd say in Dragon Ball,
Ki or chi?
chi. In Dragon Ball,
So
their
they
physical
call it
strength is
that.
linked with their ki, the strength that comes from that. So if a character gets stronger, he's able to fire stronger energy blasts, but also able
How would
to
that
punch
look?
harder.
Can you show us?
It looks something like this. Is often how Goku does his Kamehameha.
Can you say it?
Characters. I think you guys know how to do it. Y'all want to try?
I don't.
How does it
really
go?
know how
I
it
don't know how
goes.
to do it. I don't even know what it is.
He typically pronounces Kamehameha when he shoots his Kamehameha wave. But
Can you
characters can shoot
Kamehameha.
energy blasts out of their hands
Like
without
that?
saying
Was
things.
it like that?
Yeah, something like that.
No, show us.
Yeah, it's.
We need a demonstration.
I don't think I'm gonna
If you're an expert, you
demonstrate.
should, you should totally
I didn't.
be
I
able
didn't
to do
introduce
this.
myself as an expert. So.
Yes, you
Yes,
did.
you did.
You said you were Jonathan. This is Superhero Chat, and we're doing Dragon
I think I
Ball.
said superhero talk actually.
This is true. You did mess that up. You had one job, and you totally bombed it.
I was doing great for like the first 2 seconds. of the
Yeah,
show.
yeah. You
Yeah,
should have
good
just let
job.
me
So.
Leave a like for Jonathan trying.
try. Right?
My plan is to transition from this guy. I'm going to take over the show.
Good to know.
So, just so you know, when
Just
he
getting
takes
started.
over, it's going to be superhero talk. No,
That's right.
no longer superhero
When
chat.
you see that in the title, you know it's
This
been
guy's
taken
taking over.
That's right.
All right, so I've got to ask. Can Goku beat Superman?
Can go. Well, we really jumped to this quickly.
Yeah.
So for me, I watched this Dragon Ball Z show with just amazement. I think I started when I was in elementary school.
So you're saying no, he couldn't?
Well, let me build the story a little bit. So I had seen the
He's
the
building
Superman.
up to say no, but just listen to him.
I-
Hear him out.
I had seen Superman and Batman on Cartoon Network and seen the shows and
Cartoon Network.
yeah,
They used to be on network TV. Come on.
No,
Come on.
Cartoon Network's my exposure. And
Okay, boomer.
from what I saw of Goku as he progressed in his abilities, I felt like he was way more powerful than Superman. He was able to blow up planets, and then he became exponentially stronger over time. So it's hard to even fathom how powerful he become. He was able to manipulate his ki, whereas Superman, the closest that I saw of that was the lasers from his eyes and the freezing breath kind of stuff. And so, to somebody
that's
who's
how he
watched a
does
lot
it,
of
I
Dragon
think.
Ball Z but hasn't seen a lot of Superman, it seems ridiculous to even ask the question. But as I've read about these debates and things, because I'm not as familiar with Superman, Superman seems to have some plots that are kind of cheat codes. So you guys can
Cheat
tell me more
codes?
about that.
Cheat codes. What do
Explain
you
why
mean by
Superman
that?
can't be beat.
Well, I think
You guys are the
if you're
Superman
going to go by the
experts.
cartoon, I think the best one is the Justice League episode with that explains why he's that way. When he goes up against Darkseid.
So in the very final episode of the Justice League Unlimited cartoon, Superman, they are fighting Darkseid, who is the ultimate big bad of the DC universe, and there's this amazing battle that takes place. So the Justice League are getting their butt kicked for the most part, and Superman's like, you know what? If I don't do this, then everything else is, we're just all going to lose.
It's all on the line.
And Darkseid shoots his Omega beams, which he can have them track out. Like, they will keep going until they hit their
Okay.
target.
Okay, heat-seeking missiles.
And he's going after Batman. And he almost gets him. And then Superman shows up, and he's just kind of talking. He's like, that man will never quit. Talking about Batman. And then he's like, I feel like I live in a world made out of cardboard, where I'm always going to break something or break someone, and then he's like, but you know what? I think you can take it. And then he just hauls off and just, pounds Darkseid across the city. And then as Darkseid is flying through the air, multiple city blocks, as he's coming to the sort of maximum point of his arc, Superman's there waiting, and then he goes boom and sends him into this crater into the earth, because after he hits him he makes a crater when he lands, And so the point that I think they're trying to make is like Superman is always holding back.
Because if he did, he'd break everything.
Does he have a limit?
He does.
It's hard
on...
to say. Like I
See,
feel like
that's the thing that I've heard that I think could be the best argument for Superman being able to beat Goku, that he always increases his limit depending on the foe.
I think his
he
limit
doesn't have a
is
limit.
literally set by himself. So as long as he has access to yellow sun radiation, the sky is the limit. Like literally as high as he can go.
See, Goku certainly has a limit. He can, like many action shows, if a character gets angry, they can kind of get a little bit stronger than they are, the adrenaline and
like
everything.
the mom lifting the car off the...
Yeah, there's always a little bit of variation
something.
there, but power levels are somewhat set in Dragon Ball Z. Sometimes a transformation might come out of nowhere and somebody will jump a lot higher, but that higher point that they've jumped to has a limit. But the way I've heard people talk about Superman, it's almost as if he doesn't have a limit, unless maybe you were just to overwhelm him in one strong move that he wasn't ready for, or even then would he
I think
back.
even then, there's the potential for the comeback. I mean, it's always about how you write the character, right?
Yeah, and
so it sounds like Dragon Ball started more sort of Earth level, but quickly progressed to this cosmic level, and I think that right there is totally the I don't know, the trump card, so to speak, in favor of Superman.
He's always been what he is. He's always had the same strength
Superman?
that he's had. Other than when he was younger and he had to learn how to use his powers,
We're
right?
talking about Superman.
Right.
Well, so as a child, he did not have powers, because he was growing up and absorbing the solar radiation, and as the longer he stayed on Earth and under the yellow sun, he got more powerful. So, like I said, if he's under any other colored sun than a yellow one, then he's not going to be as powerful. But you have to recognize our universe is not quite infinite, but it is quite vast, and so a lot of suns are yellow, and so that radiation would keep him powered.
I would say that based on the scale of basically all the Superman fights that I've seen, they aren't to the same scale of a fight as what I've seen in Dragon Ball Z at its peak.
Yeah,
and so that's what's deceptive, because you think that that's Superman's limit, but
right,
what I've
and
heard
so
from Superman proponents is that he can go past that.
Absolutely. So my argument would be the closest that it comes is maybe when he's fighting Darkseid in that Justice League episode we referenced.
Especially TV-wise.
But he's on Earth, and he's not trying to destroy the planet in the fight. Like, he's always holding back.
If he hit Darkseid hard enough, he could
knock his head off, right?
Mm.
Like, just hit him so hard that his head would literally come off. But Superman's not about killing people. He's always holding back. He's always reserved. Like, even when he's letting loose, he's still holding back, if that makes sense.
See, yeah, so that's, as I've become more educated about Superman, I am much more cautious about these arguments.
Yeah.
But I guess some important factors would be, how is he going to interact with Goku's manipulation of ki and these energy blasts? It's kind of hard to understand how those are going to work together in these two universes. Though I know there are some characters that can kind of shoot something like energy blasts, I guess.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And also, there's kind of a trump card that either one of them could play. If Goku has kryptonite, that's kind of a game changer. Right. If they're fighting closer to the sun, that's going to give Superman a huge advantage. Or if Goku teleports Superman, he has this ability to teleport people incredibly long distances away to different planets, then he could get him away from a sun. And so these things would, ways that either character could easily win.
Sure.
So it's not a easy answer, I guess.
I think even with the teleportation, Superman could fly back.
Right, because in space he can fly faster than the speed of light.
So
now, Goku can teleport faster than the speed of light, but
Superman, on Earth, Superman is a few steps slower than the Flash, who can move at the speed of light on Earth. So he's not as
and he's conscious through every step of that as he's
Superman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when Goku does it, I think it's just kind of instantaneous. He's not really thinking about the in-between. He just pops.
Well, I mean, if they're on a planet where there's no visible life and things like that, then I don't think Superman would have to worry about, like, running through a building right?
Yeah.
But teleportation also works differently.
Well,
than just running
the other
and
thing-
flying.
This is true.
And we were talking about this earlier, is that Superman is more of a brawler, whereas Goku has been a trained martial artist from his youth, basically.
Okay.
And so, in a real life fight, somebody who's good at martial arts. So if their power level, if they're roughly the same strength, you would almost want to give the guy who actually knows how to fight in a sophisticated manner the advantage. But again, these weird advantages.
Right,
That
so
Superman has.
Superman as Superboy went to the future and teamed up with the Legion of Superheroes, and Karate Kid was there. So invariably, they would have learned from one another, right? And
He's
then,
best friends with Batman.
yeah,
so.
he's best friends with Batman.
I'm pretty sure
so.
that it's canon in the comics that Batman's taught him some stuff.
Well, he had to, because what if Superman loses his powers? Like, there are instances where, like, the sun was blocked out and Superman was powerless, yet he still had to learn how to defend himself. So Superman would know enough, I think, to defend himself, if not win in a martial arts fight, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That's an interesting debate. But, that's one of the reasons why I liked Dragon Ball when I first started seeing it, because the characters were so otherworldly powerful. It was just really cool to see someone get in a fight on that scale where a character is, powering up, so to speak, before the fight, and there's literally tornadoes occurring around him because the planet's undergoing all these changes and it can't handle these beings with such otherworldly power. And so the show does a good job of portraying what characters like this would be like and the kinds of effects they'll have on the climate and the planet. And they have a lot of great ways of just portraying power in the effects that happen.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, all the beings that they ultimately fight are progressively more powerful?
Yeah, it kind of have to be for the show to be interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't think it would be interesting for someone to get the better of Goku or whoever based on not power but intellect?
Yeah,
Is that an aspect of the show? Like,
there are times when that can happen, but because the character it's so much power level based, the characters get so strong at some point that there's no one who can threaten them unless they're
until someone
incredibly
else
powerful.
comes along who's
Everyone
more
else that they've
powerful.
surpassed, they're so far below them that characters will punch them in the face and their face won't even move because they're so much stronger than they are. So.
Oh, okay. Like
Yeah.
Doomsday and Superman who took the first punch.
Well, if there was something like the Dragon Balls, or if you had some kind of hack ability, some kind of magical ability. So that's what's happening in Dragon Ball Super manga right now, which is actually really interesting. I've disliked most of this current show and manga, but this new arc is actually really good. And spoiler alert, somebody gets the Dragon Balls to wish back this ancient character who has these magical abilities to absorb energy from planets. And he's able to suck energy out of Goku and Vegeta, even though they're physically stronger than he is, so that he's actually got the advantage, and he quickly becomes more powerful than they are. So that's actually a good example of
What's his name?
Moro. I think that's how you pronounce it.
He's a bad guy.
I just read it. I haven't heard anybody actually say it
Who's
out loud.
Vegeta?
He's a bad guy.
I don't know who that is.
So Vegeta's another Saiyan. He's actually his father was the king of the Saiyans on their planet Vegeta, and so he named his son after the name of the planet. And in Dragon Ball Z, there's only 4 Saiyans who survive the destruction of their planet.
Vegeta, Namek, who else?
Vegeta, Namek's not one.
Really?
So he's royalty. There's Goku, who was sent to Earth as a child.
Kakarot.
That's right, that's his Saiyan name. Raditz is Goku's
Oh,
brother,
Raditz,
who
that's
comes
what
to the
I'm
planet to try to do what Goku was supposed to do, which is destroy
He's
the
the
human
bald-headed guy,
population.
right?
No, he's the guy with crazy long hair. He's really
And
neat,
it's been
too.
years since I've watched it.
And then the bald-headed guy is Nappa, who is just
Nappa.
an elite, high-level Saiyan warrior who's teamed up with Vegeta, and they do tasks together.
Okay.
Yeah. And once Goku takes care of his brother, Nappa and Vegeta come to planet Earth because they hear about the Dragon Balls, and they want to wish for eternal life, so that they can rule the universe and things like that.
And that's all in Dragon Ball, right?
This is all in Dragon Ball Z. Once Goku grows up, once you learn he's a Saiyan, that's the very beginning of Dragon Ball Z.
So are you following Gohan then in Dragon Ball Z?
Gohan is introduced in Dragon Ball
As
Z.
as a child, kind of like...
He kind of takes the place of young Goku, except he doesn't grow up in the wild like Goku, so he's always a little bit of a wuss, and he's younger than Goku was.
Does he have a tail?
He's got a tail.
Okay, see, that's what was confusing to me, because I watched Dragon Ball Z, and then eventually I caught some of Dragon Ball, and I'm like, wait, why is Piccolo, who is with
Yeah.
Gohan in Dragon Ball Z suddenly trying to kill him in Dragon Ball, and so it made no sense to
man.
me.
Okay. Yeah, I was very confused by the show when I first got started too, because again they start in Dragon Ball Z when they were airing it in the U.S. But it quickly became so interesting that I just had to keep watching it, and I slowly figured it all out.
Alright, so
Yeah.
let's say you've never watched Dragon Ball or heard of it before. Where's a good starting place?
Well, things have escalated to a pretty high level in Dragon Ball Z, so it immediately starts off with tons of action. And that's how most U.S. People have been exposed to it. So that's not a bad place to start. But the Dragon Ball series is actually really fun because it's got the fighting aspects, and they slowly get stronger to where these are some high-level fights where mountains are being blown up and the planet is eventually in danger. But it's also got these really fun adventure aspects where it's regular characters can be a threat, and there's a lot more humor. And so Dragon Ball is, a lot of people think it's the best version of the show.
Now, story-wise,
before
that's
Z and GT.
that's-
Story-wise, it's the best.
That's the
first.
first.
That's the beginning.
That's the first.
Is it in English?
They have the English dubs.
Yeah, they've got English dubs, but actually the music in the Japanese and just the emotion and talent of the Japanese voice actors, I think I prefer watching it in the
With
original
subtitles?
with subtitles. So yeah, I think that's the best experience personally.
You can pick up most of these DVDs at Target. I've seen them there
Yeah.
before. Amazon,
Walmart
I'm
has one,
sure.
too.
Oh, probably.
I've got the what are they called? The digitally remastered. So they're in these orange boxes. And
Yeah.
you can listen to the original Japanese voices and music, or you can listen to the English voices with the Japanese music. Japanese music's the
Oh.
best, I would say.
Okay.
And I would prefer the Ocean Dube version of the
The word is dub.
dub. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
never heard
dub.
people talk about this out loud.
That's fine. It's dub because you're dubbing it.
The Ocean has the best music, I would say, and voice actors. But then they change the studios who do it like a third of the way through Z, so then it goes to Funimation. But
Okay.
yeah, it's very complicated. There's many different editions, and they're still coming out with new editions of music and voice acting. It's
Wow.
never ending. So that just goes to show how good the show is. You should definitely check it out.
It's in perpetual
Yeah.
re-release.
Now I have a question: is in these other comics, which you guys watch and read, is there a lot of blood and things like that, or is that not a big factor?
It depends. Sometimes so yes and no. Like in a Punisher comic, it's going to be all over the place. In a Batman comic, you're going to have more than in a Superman comic, because a lot of the villains that Superman fights are, power wise, they're impressive enough that punches don't necessarily cause blood. I mean, the most that you'll see on a regular basis is like somebody getting hit in the mouth and a little bit of blood flying out of their lip where it's busted. But I mean, then there are. I'm trying to see if there's any comic nearby that I can point to. So like Superman or Batman will throw a batarang and like it'll splatter blood from some guy's hand where it pierces them or whatever, catches them in the shoulder. Green Arrow shoot his arrows and
Okay.
stab people and there'll be blood.
No.
But
I would say, it sounds strange in a sense, but I would say that's one of the appeals of Dragon Ball, and Dragon Ball Z especially. Super doesn't have a ton of blood, but it's got some scenes, especially in the upcoming arc that's going on in the manga right now, that are, I wouldn't say gory, but they're realistic. And I think that's one of the ways that it's drawn me in, because a lot of cartoons that I had seen in the past, there's violence, there's fighting, but in real life, if you were really hurting someone, there would be a lot of blood and bruising and things like that. And in Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, you definitely get that. You get people getting impaled from time to time. There's blood flying when they're being punched, blood coming from the nose, and it really adds a sense of realism to the fights, and kind of ups the stakes and your investment in it. And so that's one thing that people haven't enjoyed as much about Super, that a lot of the blood has been taken out, and so it feels less realistic. And I think part of that is because there's stricter regulations where the show's being made in Japan.
Is that on Cartoon Network?
I don't know. I
Or
usually
WB?
that's not where I've watched it. I think it is airing at Cartoon Network though.
That's probably why.
Yeah.
Well, it's not Cartoon Network's who's making the decisions. It's people who are airing it in Japan first because it's coming out there and then being translated here
Interesting.
later on.
Fair enough.
But that's one thing that I enjoy about it. Yeah, it's since I mean
So
there's
you
lots
like
of
the
different ways
viscera.
people get there's lots of different ways people get cut in half. There's all kinds of it's never over the top gory though like a horror
Well, I mean, in
movie or something
comics,
like that.
there was an Avenger book where Sentry, a Superman homage, ripped Carnage in half in space.
Okay.
I mean, and you've
Yeah.
seen enough.
I mean, there are characters who will just, they're so much more powerful than the people they're against that they can just thrust their hand right through them.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, you get that in comics.
You get a lot
Yeah.
of stuff.
And it's a good way to portray the power of these characters when they do it to
Especially
another character
depending
that
on
you
who's
consider
writing.
powerful.
Right.
So,
There's lots of dark versions of stuff and
That's true.
dark
Yeah.
storylines. Like I think of the series where Black Canary gets assaulted.
Oh, right.
And,
Longbow Hunters.
Yeah. And then like you kind of have the aftermath of that where they're dealing with her
Trauma.
And,
So.
yeah. So you have stuff like the street level heroes tend to get a lot more of that stuff.
Yeah, Daredevil. I mean, he gets the snot
Okay.
beat out of him all the time and
okay.
beats the snot out of everybody
The
else. too.
Defenders characters.
Yeah.
The,
The new Defenders, but
This is true. Yeah.
one of the most common ways to perish in Dragon Ball is to just be totally annihilated through an energy blast that just engulfs you and there's nothing left. So that's fairly common.
Until they Dragon Ball wish you back.
The
though.
Dragon Balls can wish you back, and that becomes a pretty big problem later on in Dragon Ball Z. The deaths just don't really strike you as being too bad because even the characters are talking about, well, we'll just wish them back. We can still fix this. But earlier on in the show, especially Dragon Ball, there's a lot more weight when characters die, and things are really
it's kind of how
on the
comics
line.
used to be until Barry Allen came back and Superman came back.
Yeah. Now the thing is, the Dragon Balls were created by Namekians, and so there's a Namekian on the planet Earth, and he created these Dragon Balls actually. And the way they work is if this Namekian, it's Piccolo, if he is killed, the Dragon Balls will cease to work as Dragon Balls. They just become regular rocks. And so there is a huge problem if the Namekians who created the Dragon Balls are killed. And so that's, even when people can be wished back, that can be a way that a lot of tension is added to the show.
Is there like a dragon world where the dragons live?
I think kind of theoretically, they never really talk about it, but that seems to be the assumption. The dragon's chilling somewhere else in some realm that no one ever knows.
Didn't
anything
Goku
about.
go looking for him on some bridge or something?
No.
No, there's some scene where they're like on this bridge in the clouds, running along.
So that's Snake Way, but he's not
Okay.
looking for the eternal dragon. He is Goku's died, so they have this almost theology of the afterlife, and the two Saiyans are coming to Earth to get the Dragon Balls, and they're way stronger than Goku. But he hears that there's this King Kai fellow that he can train under, who's almost like a god in the mythology of Dragon Ball.
Oh.
And so he hears that he can train under him, and maybe he can get strong enough to beat his brothers, and they can wish him back to life. Well, not his brothers, his Saiyan.
Cousins.
Yeah, it doesn't say that they're the same race. But so he has to run on this Snake Way path that's just floating in the clouds for I don't know how many miles it is, but
Right.
it takes him months to get there, so it's a lot. And yeah, so that's what you're thinking of. It's the Snake Way thing.
Yeah.
But he's got a lot of kind of weird, creative ideas like that make the show very unique and interesting. And I would say one of my favorite things about the show, the more that I've reflected on it, not just the way that they portray the power of these characters, and they have great fight scenes and fight choreography in the way they portray all the punches and the kicks and everything, but also just the art style. It really sticks out to you. It's kind of larger than life, and it's especially good in Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. I would say particularly the first third in the Saiyan saga and up to the Frieza saga, the art style is really good. But, the animators change over time. The people who are drawing these scenes change.
Sure.
And so the show doesn't look the same over time. And I didn't know why that was, but I've been learning more about how they create these things. But that's one of the distinctive things that I really like about Dragon Ball. The characters just look so cool in the way they draw their attacks and things like that. And that's kind of what got me into Naruto, basically the only other anime that I've watched. It has a similarly striking and intriguing art style. And that's one of the things that I prefer over things like Superman and Batman. They don't seem as the art just doesn't suck me in as quickly as the unique look of Dragon Ball.
If you're into anime, check out The Batman. There was
The Batman.
Yes, there was a cartoon series in the mid 2000s that came out, ran for 5 or 6 seasons. Jeff Matsuda, he is a Asian creator. He does Batman in sort of an anime style. So look for that.
Anime style Batman.
Yeah, it's actually a lot better than It's Not. So a lot of folks.
It's better than It's Not.
Yep, it's better than.
I don't know what that means.
Well, okay, so I'd say It's Not Batman the animated series from the '90s, which I think is sort of the pinnacle of Batman cartoons. But it was
That's
enjoyable,
awesome.
right? Like I enjoyed Jeff Matsuda's. So, have you ever seen the Jackie Chan Adventures cartoon show?
I did.
Okay, it's the same guy who did the artwork for that.
Okay.
So if you dug that artwork,
Yeah, it was good.
as Batman.
It was good. I think one of the things that anime often does well, which I don't like it to have too much variation, but they often will do exaggerated expressions and things like that. So the characters' eyes will get bigger than they could realistically get,
Right.
but it makes it very expressive and really pops. Now some animes will just go over the top, and personally I don't like that as much, but that's something that Dragon Ball does really well. And other animes that were made around the same time period for early Dragon Ball Z, they're good at things like that too. That's kind of my favorite look, is the 90s time period.
Yeah.
But
I think you'll appreciate that. If you're interested in Batman, there's enough continuity canon-wise that you should be able to enjoy the look while learning a lot about Batman.
yeah.
So check it out.
All right, so final thoughts.
Oh, hold on, real quick. Number 1 villain in all of Dragon Ball.
Number 1 villain.
Who's your favorite, or who do you think is the
You can include that
Pre-
in your final thoughts.
preeminent? Well, I'll let you guys.
All right, I would say personally, I'm going to go with Frieza, because in a lot of ways it feels like the Frieza saga of Dragon Ball is the highlight of the series. It would have made a lot of sense for the series to end at that point, because when Goku is fighting Frieza, he's this villain who basically rules the known universe. Frieza does. No one is even powerful enough to come close to challenge him or anything, and he's just a tyrant. He's super sadistic. He's super wicked. They do they have a lot of great ways of portraying that. And
He
so
looks
you
like
hate this
Mewtwo
guy
from Pokemon, right?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. You hate this guy. He's super wicked. He's just he's killed so many people, oppressed so many people, but he's also so powerful. I mean, he's just unstoppable, and he's actually the person who destroyed Goku's home planet, the Saiyans' home planet. And so it's this round circle, getting back to this guy who's kind of started it all for them, and it's actually when Goku first becomes this legendary Super Saiyan, when he beats Frieza. And so it's this huge climax of the series. And yeah, so story-wise, Frieza's a great villain. Just how evil he is, the way he's portrayed, he's great. And I mean, they fight him for like 1 million episodes.
Sure, well,
it's a long battle because he has all these
Dragon
transformations.
Ball. That's Dragon Ball.
So he would be my favorite. Maybe King Piccolo and Vegeta would be 2 and 3. Both of them have really good fight scenes when
and
they
King
go down.
Piccolo's at the end of Dragon Ball. And
That's
then
right.
Vegeta's early on in Dragon Ball
Does he
Z.
kill
Right.
his
And
his villains?
the best fight in
Sometimes.
all of Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT, Dragon Ball Super is Goku versus Vegeta the first time. It's the best fight. So that's a big reason to count him as the best villain.
Okay.
One of the best villains.
So he asked you a question.
What's your question?
Final thoughts on Dragon Ball as related to the group.
Final thoughts. As related to the group?
I was really just closing and saying let's add our final thoughts. I think it sounds pretty interesting. The only reason I never watched it is because I just never had access to it. I only had so much time, and I had other shows, and I didn't even know it was a thing until much later. And by then, it had already been going on for so long. I was like, well, you can't really. That was before everything started coming out on DVD, and so
Or the internet.
or the internet. something I'd be interested in watching, just from our conversations in general. But
If I had an expert to walk me through it, I might be willing to sit through more. I got hooked on when it was on Cartoon Network, particularly the Boo saga.
That's the weakest saga. If you like that, then you would definitely like the early
So
ones.
I really was interested, and my interest waned very quickly because I missed one day, and then I turned the TV on, and they had started over or gone back to something else, and I'm like, what happened? Like, I wanted the conclusion to the saga that I had been
so
watching.
maybe in the
Yeah.
future, Lewis will see the conclusion of the
Yeah,
story.
yeah. Well,
Although he
apparently,
probably read about it.
yeah. So I did. So apparently, Kid Buu becomes a thing in GT, and so
Just the end of Dragon Ball. I don't think he comes back in GT.
I thought he was early on. Maybe I'm wrong.
He still exists as a character. Not Kid Buu, but Majin Buu. It's confusing. There's a bunch of Boos. But, yeah, he's still around.
Okay,
Majin Buu's
well,
still around. That's
So,
right.
is I keep wanting to say Yu-Gi-Oh! Dragon Ball Z.
Those are not the same. I'm not a Yu-Gi-Oh fan.
Is
I used to
Card
have
game is fun.
hair like Yu-Gi-Oh.
is Dragon Ball? I
pretty
almost
cool to show you
played. I
pictures.
almost played Yu-Gi-Oh! Once as a kid.
The video game.
No, the card game, and then the other guys got mad and we quit.
The video game was interesting. The show, I enjoyed the show
I
for a
enjoyed
little
the
while.
show.
For a little while, then it
Um,
became repetitive.
I didn't
and
watch
was like,
much. I just watched random episodes, but anywho. So
it hooked me on the episode where they had
is-
the guys posing the riddles.
I never watched an episode of this.
Okay.
I know about it, though.
Is Dragon Ball Z your favorite franchise?
Favorite franchise? I mean, what all does that include?
Science fiction.
Star Wars is a franchise. DC's a
Ooh.
franchise. Marvel's
Marvel.
a franchise.
It's kind of its own category. I mean, it's definitely...
Would that be your biggest fandom? I guess would be the way to pose the question. We're DC guys.
It's my favorite
But
cartoon
he's a Star Wars
slash
guy.
Star
anime
Wars
thing.
is my favorite fandom.
Yeah.
DC might be number 2.
It doesn't have the same depth as a lot of more realistic kinds of things might, but it's a lot of fun. I'm not gonna learn huge moral lessons from
So is
Dragon Ball,
is
but-
DC
Do you think it's
or
possible?
there's some. But
Dragon Ball.
Is Dragon
Yeah.
Ball Z
Where have
your
you been?
favorite something?
it's
Favorite cartoon?
it's
show,
definitely
favorite
it's my favorite.
anime.
video game, favorite anime.
It's my favorite portrayal of great fighting. So it does a great job of taking the great fight scene choreography of guys like Jackie Chan, and there's even a character in Dragon Ball that is
Honors him.
specifically based off of him, and another one off of Bruce Lee. And so they take a lot of the great fight choreography and moves from those guys and incorporate it into the show. And they just do a great job portraying. The fights are just really fun. And they do a good job maintaining a tension in the show for a long part of it as well. So, yeah, I mean, it's still fun now to like go back and just watch certain highlights and stuff. So I like it for those things particularly.
So it's not the Matrix or the Bourne movies.
No, I do really like the Bourne movies, but that's just a totally different
Yeah,
category. It's
But the
very
Bourne movies are
realistic.
different.
Very realistic.
The only Matrix movie worth watching was the first one.
All right. Well,
Superman or Goku?
let us know in the comments. what you
Did
think about it.
did we convince you?
Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, leave us in the comment. Maybe we'll bring him back and he can answer.
It's gonna be my show soon.
Superhero talk.
Or eventually, Superhero Talk will take over, and he'll answer those questions for you himself. But we appreciate it. I know it's a little different than our normal, but hey, we like all the fandoms talking about them. And
And we're willing to host things we have no idea
if
about.
you want to see them on here more, we'll try to rope them into by buying
Suck
them
me into night.
CCs.
Say
And,
something other than first in the comments, and
Last.
I don't think.
That would
You're
imply
killing
no
me,
one else is
Smalls.
gonna
I
comment.
don't think Sammy's gonna watch this far to hear your warning. Anyways,
maybe I should put it
if
in
you're,
the
if you're
beginning.
new here, go ahead and subscribe. We'd love for you to join the family. We
Start our next video that way.
talk about everything sci-fi, and then and fandoms and stuff. If you enjoyed that, give us a like. Give us a like for Jonathan because he's trying. And
Try.
Give us a like for not eating him alive on video, because we
and-
thought about it.
They held back.
And we'll catch you next time. Peace.
Comic talk.
Oh God. This is still off.